After doing my weekend David Goggins workout, I'm incredibly thankful after running a little bit to just make up my mind, just to eat my oats with sunflower seeds, blueberries, a banana from Ghana. Yeah, I took the African one. It's better than South American, in my opinion. A intuitive introvert is good at buying food without being rigidly looking for objects and picking the object, but intuitively walking through the store and be open for all information and then pick what is the best seasonal, the best fruit in this moment, in a place, and then picking the best individual fruit. And with many other seeds and nuts, almonds, cashews, and honey, I'm incredibly thankful for this. I was also thinking about the message I want to give you about self-confidence, what is real self-confidence, and imagine you're in the face of a psychopath that triangulates you using a narcissist that is hiding under the smokescreen of borderline diagnosis, and you tell the person, this is the spirit of death. I'm gonna leave this place because it's all vanity and death. And the person you talk to is a psychologist and says, no, this is just different. So that gaslighting. A psychologist using the knowledge only to be manipulative and create pain and hurt and coerce and gain power instead of healing anyone. Even willing to cover the mental abuse of their own children and covering it up, denying it, deflecting it, like this is not the spirit of death and it's all fine and all good. So I saw this without even knowing anything about narcissism or psychopathy. I just said, as a the naive me, being maybe 39 years old, so it was 3 years ago, and I said, this is the spirit of death. By the way, I also said, I am the better psychologist and I am the better mystic, because I was also talking mystic means on yoga. So I had a lot of confidence and I communicated this, but I was not competitive about it. I was pushed to be competitive, and now 3 years later, Sam Vaknin says that narcissism and borderline is deeply connected to thanatos, which is death drive. And by the way, even before he said this, I connected it because I started to educate myself. And when I found out about the death drive that was invented, described, the model was invented and the term coined by Sabina Spielrein, but then hijacked by Sigmund Freud. So Sigmund Freud was an extrovert. Probably he also had strong narcissistic traits, maybe somatic narcissistic traits. So he was an overt extroverted personality, probably with somatic narcissistic traits. Therefore, he could understand the drives and the lower nature of man so well. But he also must have had reflective, introspective qualities. But maybe he also took this from His students' work, especially women in science, have often been kind of the knowledge and research they did has been absorbed by men and hijacked by men, especially in the past. So, yeah, I said this because Sigmund Freud also created the concept of superego, and superego is often misunderstood as something like the ego that is also connected to narcissism and to resentment. And narcissism is basically a vacuum filled with resentment. But the superego is actually not something like an inflated ego or something that is even worse than the ego. And the ego is not bad at all. But the superego is actually that what a narcissist really lacks, in my opinion. But I'm not professional in this, so the superego has to do with a moral core and the social alignment that we have. And probably in a narcissist, this is of course flawed and twisted and manipulated. But you must ask Richard Grennan or ChatGPT about what this is and what superego injunctions are. They are also connected to narcissism anyway. I just wanted to talk about self-confidence and that I have, without educating myself, first called out narcissism as the spirit of death in a lack of further knowledge. Then, when I found out what death drive is, I immediately connected it to narcissism and to the damned up libido and sexual, like the criminalization, or no, rather the weaponization of sexuality, and the connection to exhibitionistic traits and sadomasochistic traits, especially also the narcissistic mortification that can be used by very desperate, very strange, covert narcissists to dam up their libido and transfer it into a death drive kind of thing. I made a video about this, but yeah, I want to point out, and I'm reflecting myself about it today, that for me this is the proof that I was right and I never lost faith in this. I said this is the spirit of death, and now Sam Vaknin proves me right. I said this is not good for my children when they live in this dynamic, and I told everybody who could take responsibility and help me to solve the problem. But nobody believed me and nobody helped me. And now that my children have spoken out, it is true. This has put extreme mental pressure onto them, the situation. And it was covered up, and nobody saw the situation in reality, only me. So there were delusional people around, also detached people who simply don't have the capacity to be empathetic. And so this was true, and now Sam Vaknin confirms that truly Thanatos' death drive is connected to narcissism. So all of this proves to me that it was all true that I said. I am the better psychologist, and yeah, I also said I'm the better mystic, because I mean, when you're detached from emotions and you traumatize your own children just to satisfy your own selfish goals, and then later you suddenly try to switch to make everything good and right now, and you just switch the dynamic to some other fake shit. I know that people like this can't do any better. They always do their best, but it's like the worst you've ever seen. Yeah, so basically, what I want to say is this is true courage and true self confidence, in my opinion, to stand up alone and reveal the truth just by using nothing worldly like degrees or power or any form of superiority, but just yourself, your body and your mind, your intuition, to reveal all of this. And it proves to be true. This does not give me any satisfaction or like vengefulness or competitive, oh, I've proved it, I'm better. It's not about that. It's just, rather, it is to show the people who are highly competitive and manipulative that this is not benevolent for anyone, that this is basically that what they try and that what they do is shameful and is based on anxiety, is basically based on shame and anxiety and guiltiness, and leads to destruction. This is always the problem with narcissist and psychopath. You can't communicate them, you can't change them, you can only prove them wrong. But after you prove them wrong, it's vanity. It is over. It's over. It's just that their attempt to save the situation or save themselves or is just getting more and more desperate. The narratives and the identities have to switch all the time just to save this fantasy, or rather to prevent them to introspect, because introspection would destroy them. To see reality would destroy them. So they have to shift identity, narration, and yeah. So confidence, self-confidence, you only feel your own power and your self-confidence when it's tested, when you're undermined, when they try to humiliate you and unalive you. Narcissists try to unalive you, to introject you or to internalize you as a object. So they first have to take away the joy of you and the livelihood in order to internalize you as an object. And this object will function, will have no, the inner world of the narcissist and the psychopath is a dead wasteland. There is only objects that they can use. So when they call you on the phone or they meet you, you're an object. And if you have tendencies of being alive, uncontrollable, joyful, and they have not full control over this, there is a problem. There is admiration, but behind admiration always lurks malicious envy. And therefore, the sabotaging begins. The coercive control, the projective identification begins. And all of this, in some way, this is the danger, but also the chance in narcissistic abuse, because you then can feel your power and you really feel what life is about. It's not that willy-nilly school education, philosophy book, self-improvement channel, blah, blah, blah. You really find out what the core of life is, what the purpose is, and it's not a lot left, actually. There is human a human core that is beyond all of that. And that's exactly what the narcissist and the psychopath want of you. But there's actually, I think, nothing that could point a person that much towards it. It's everything that the narcissistic personality organization is not, and everything that the psychopathic personality organization is not. That is what the core of a human being is, and what counts, what is important. And it is true self-confidence to not lose the belief in yourself and the compassion in yourself and in others when you go through this, through the interaction with people who are not in reality, who are absorbed in a power fantasy, in a splitting mechanism, in dopamine control, and in a dog eat dog mentality. That's not, that's vanity. I can only say it's all vanity.